What is up, people? Welcome back to the channel. So this is end of block review, end of block update, the next installment in the Powerbuilding Chronicles. This is the second time I've completed this block post prep, and this was the block where I was meant to see how close to my own numbers could I get, and it went pretty well. The entirety of the block has been pretty successful except for the previous week. So the previous week I was sick for a few days, and I was meant to be testing my end of block singles, which because of being sick didn't necessarily go the way I intended them to go. Now if we think back to the end of the last block where I was testing these singles, I squatted 230, I benched 145, I deadlifted 272. Now I've already hit those numbers within this block, and with the 145 and bench I actually tripled that this block. So there has been some pretty sizable increases in my lift over the course of the last 8 weeks. Prior to this week I had already squatted 236 and it moved pretty handily. I'll throw that up on the screen. This week I did go for 240. Now after being sick for a few days, this was a retarded decision, and it was one that I made just based off emotion really. I worked up to 225, that moves well, and then after that I had a little bit of confidence and I was like, you know what, I'll move up to 240. But realistically, even though 225 moved well, I should have made the right decision and said, you know what, I was sick during the week. Let's not try to expect my body to hit pretty much a max effort load. So I went for it, I paid the price. I got stuck in the middle. I didn't know spotters. I had to dump the bar, and it cost me my streak of not having missed a squat since I was in university. And realistically, at the end of the day, even though I missed it, you know, I still carried on my session because why the fuck not? It's just a lift. And I think this is a message that I try to get across to a lot of my younger lifters, or my lifters who get too attached to their training or attached to their numbers if a lift doesn't go their way. Like, it is just training at the end of the day. Unless you stop lifting, you are probably going to hit the lift again, and you're probably going to lift heavier. So if that is you, just keep in mind, like, if you miss a lift today in training, it doesn't really matter. Like, your mother is not going to love you any less. Emma doesn't love me any less. You know, none of my clients left me because I missed a lift. And if anything, it gives me the opportunity to kind of share this kind of valuable lesson with you to ensure that you are not getting overly attached to a number on the bar. So bench has went phenomenally. Bench has pretty much linearly increased across this block, and almost every time I have a weight in my hand, it feels so much easier than last time. So this block I did increase my bench frequency to 3 times per week, versus in the last block I was doing twice a week, and definitely having that small increase in volume and increase in frequency paid massive dividends in regards to how rapidly I could increase my bench. Another thing that I was very mindful of this block with bench was to work with higher intensities as well. So I was utilizing triples and doubles for a lot of the block, and then towards the latter half of the block I was implementing a single. So my best triple during the block was 145. I did miss 150. You know, after the second rep I was kind of hesitating on for the third, but I went for it anyway. I did have a spotter thankfully that time, but the biggest highlight was hitting that 159, because that's pretty much matching my competition bench. And to think that at the end of prep I could just about bench 100 kilos again, I'm pretty fucking happy. Now deadlift, I did not get to test my single on deadlift at the end of this block, and I'm not going to.
What he is saying is simply not true. Do not believe it.
Overall, I'm pretty happy with the overall increase from the last block to this block, because it is a pretty big one. It's up 6 kilos on my squat, up 15 kilos on my bench, and up 5 kilos on my deadlift. Can't really complain for 8 weeks work. And while the SBD movements have been going phenomenally, so has all the bodybuilding work. So I am now up at 93 kilos. I'll have a physique video up on the screen for you. And this is the first physique video that I have actually shared since prep, surprisingly. It's not because I've been trying to put it off. It's simply because anytime I'm in the gym and I have the camera here, the posing room is always busy, and I don't want to go in there and you know, mog on everybody with my very aesthetic physique at the moment. But things are going very well on the bodyweight front. I'm up to 93 kilos again, as I mentioned. I've been holding this weight for like the last month or so, and the last 2 weeks has definitely been very kind of diligent in trying to keep my weight around there, because I am going to New York this week and I do intend on eating like a little pig. And these are kind of times when, like, while I love bodybuilding and I love powerlifting, I love like improving my physique, like outside of prep, like bodybuilding, it doesn't have to be this thing where you live in a rigid existence for the remainder of your days. It can be that, but it can also be fun. Like, you know, training should be fun. It should be hard, but it should be progressive as well. But it should be fun, okay? You should be enjoying your training sessions. You should enjoy turning up to the gym. You should enjoy your food. You should enjoy having the flexibility, journey gaining phase, to be able to go on holidays and eat meals that are not necessarily the meals that you eat. At the end of the day, like, prep is when that rigidity is going to be needed, and is then that you're probably going to have the most willpower to actually engage in it, because you will have had the reins off for quite some time by then. By the time I get to prep, if I don't have these events, like going to New York and not really training that much and eating everything around me, and like next month I'm going to a festival and, like, you know, I'm probably not even going to eat for those few days, and I won't be training either. Like, if I didn't have those, like, my life would definitely decrease in overall enjoyment, because at the end of the day, bodybuilding is important to me, but it is not my be all and end all. There's more things in life that I am quite interested in. And this is part of the reason why I go for these longer and extended, like, off seasons as such, because the longer extended off seasons allow me to have these weekends where I can take the foot off the gas a little bit, or these times where I take the foot off the gas. And when I say take the foot off the gas, I mean I will have like 2 or 3 days where I am probably eating enough, probably still hit my protein, maybe just not training while I'm on these trips, but my macros may be a little bit skewed. That's like me taking my foot off the gas. It's not like I'm just like not going to eat at all, or I'm not going to have like any protein, or I'm not going to drink any water for these few days. It's just a case of I won't be as like rigid as I currently am. Now, if you have a shorter bulking season and a shorter off season, of course, every single day that you have is going to matter way more. So if you have more frequent weekends like that off, or more frequent events popping up which take up more time for your off season, well, obviously you are potentially going to progress not as much as you want. So you have to weigh that into your plan. Now, with this block out of the way, it is on to planning for the Powerlifting America meets. It's going to be on July 22nd. It's going to be in Rochester. Powerlifting America are the IPF affiliate in the state, and the meet is actually only an hour away from me, so it makes it very handy for me to actually get to. This week is going to be a deal week, because yeah, I'm going to New York, and to be honest, my body's in absolute tatters from the last few weeks of training, so I do need a good rest this week. And then once I come back from New York, it's pretty much into prep. So we have 14 weeks from Monday the 17th. That's going to give me enough time to have an 8-week building block and then a 6-week peak. And essentially I already have the program mapped out, but I'm going to save that for a later video because this one's already going on long enough. With the actual training cycle itself, however, it is going to be a 4-day split, because I've been running a 6-day split since prep finished, and honestly it's just too much for me. A microcycle in total is taking me about 10 days to get through. Because of the amount of volume that I'm doing right now, I am just starting to pick up strains in different joints, which I never really get. I'm getting pains in my hips, pains in my knees, pains in my elbows, and I just don't really get them as often when I'm doing a lower volume of training. And I'm the type of trainee who, if I do 6 days of training, I'm going to do all 8 for all 6 days really fucking hard. So that means with these higher volumes of training, because I am applying myself with such effort, I can definitely tip the scales of load management towards the side of picking up these niggles. Whereas when I have a lower volume of training, especially with a powerlifting prep where I know that I'm going to be doing similar movements every other day, I find it much easier to manage my loads and auto-regulate based off how I feel. The program that I'm going to be using as well is the same program that I used for nationals in 2022. Now, it is important to kind of realize that following a past program does not necessarily mean that you will get the same results as a past program. However, what worked before could potentially work again. I have plenty of time to kind of see how this is going to interact and how I'll respond to it. I have 14 weeks, so I'm going to run the first half of the block and then repeat that again, and then I'll be into the peak. So I'll be able to see week to week how I'm responding, how the loads are going to be increasing, how the volume is going to be contributing to these aches, or how it's going to be counteracting them, or how it could be potentially reducing them because my overall volume would be lower. But look, that remains to be seen. At the end of the day, training is going to be an experiment. You learn a lot along the way, so it is worth definitely trying out some past things again and repeating them until your kind of progress wears thin, and then, you know, you can look at experiment with new things after the fact. But I definitely think over the last few weeks, having experimented with this new style of training where I'm training a little bit more and training more like a bodybuilder, that for me in my powerlifting progress does not necessarily seem to be the best way forward for me right now, especially given how I'm applying myself. But anyway, I'm rambling at this stage. So overall, this block has been a success in terms of bringing up my powerlifting numbers. However, to actually get back up to peak performance and beyond, I definitely do think that I need to have a slight change in programming and a slight change in application. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You've seen the physique, you've seen the lifts. Now over the next few weeks, you get to hop along for my next competition prep. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was somewhat useful. Anyway, if it wasn't, still like it, still subscribe, still comment, and I'll talk to you later.